On the telephone line is a legendary pop culture icon. He is an actor, writer, director, musician, known best for the comedy duo Cheech and Chong. I welcome to the program Tommy Chong. Tommy Brian C., honored to have you, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored. Honored to be on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. So I want to start in the beginning, Tommy. You grew up in Canada, and by the age of 8 years old, you were already playing the guitar. Is that correct?
Well, there weren't too many guitar players around at that time, and so I got enlisted. Lucky me, I got to be able to play for house parties all night.
And your guitar playing paid off, right? Because you got into an R&B band called The Shades.
Yeah, we actually started. That was our first. As far as I know, it's the first Canadian R&B band. Legitimate. The singer and the piano player were black, so it made us authentic, so to speak.
Now, how did you get involved with The Shades, Tommy? How did the group get together?
Well, I was playing with backing up another a native, he was a Sarsi Indian from Calgary that I met during Army Cadets, and we had he would get the gigs. I was always a backup guitar player, rhythm guitar player. And so he would get the gigs, and we would go around play like the Legion halls and that. Then I got interested in the Lindy Hop, dancing, and
right.
And of course the best dancers were the black kids in Calgary, which weren't a lot of them. In fact, there were like a handful. And one of them, Tommy Melton, was also a football star, but he also was a rhythm and blues singer and a songwriter. And so Tommy joined Dick and I performing at the Legion halls, but Tommy performed not as a singer, but as a dancer. And so then, because he could sing, and he could sing the blues, and then Dick went on his own way, and Tommy and I formed a rhythm and blues band. And we got very popular very quickly because it was right after Elvis was discovered, like '56. And so, go ahead.
No, go ahead. So the band moved to Vancouver, and that's when you were spotted by some Motown performers, correct?
Yeah, we actually got kicked out of Calgary. You're talking about racism. We actually got kicked out of Calgary because we were too popular. We were packing Legion Hall, and then after the dance was over, the teenagers would go terrorize the rest of the city, but we were the only band that was asked to leave town. So years later, I realized it was a racist move, but we were glad to go. Any excuse to get out of Calgary is a good one. So we ended up in Vancouver, and we actually because none of us understood the music industry at all. Tommy was a football player, singer. I was a roofer, laborer, guitar player, and Bernie was just out of school. All of us were too young to really know what we were doing. But when we got to Vancouver, we played in a club, and we weren't sophisticated enough to know that you only play for a short time, and then you play. You get an agent, and you play other clubs, and you record and all that. We had no idea. We took a music job like it was going to last forever, and eventually it ended, and then yeah, we just stayed around and got whatever gigs we could get, and made sure that all of us were hooked up with women that had jobs, so we could afford to be broke-ass musicians. And then eventually we met Bobby Taylor, and he was like what we call, like a star in his own right. He was one of the best singers in America, in the world, actually. When Bobby died, he was in China teaching singing, as well as performing. And Bobby Taylor is a Motown legend. If you go to Motown, they've got his picture and everything. So, we got discovered by Diana Ross, actually.
I
in the
know. I
Supremes.
read about that. That's amazing. And Gordy
Yeah.
Records, right?
Yep. We got him. We got, but the trouble is with Motown at the time. Well, it's the way with a lot of record companies. They would they could take an old car and just take the parts. And so they took apart our band right away. As soon as our hit record was over, they took Bobby by himself, and then the band went off by itself, and I couldn't do it. I like I said, I wasn't a real musician. I wasn't trained. I don't know what I was. That's why I still don't know what I am. And so,
but I have to ask you, reading about your career, you also co-composed the song "Does Your Mama Know About Me," which peaked at number 29 in the top Billboard 100.
Yeah, we did. I did. It was a poem, and I still write poetry. I'm a what do you call a serial or addicted poet. Even to this day, I write poetry. Because it's so easy to write, especially with a cell phone. I wrote the lyrics, and Tom Baird, our musical genius, every band has one, and he looked at the lyrics, and then he wrote the music, and that became our hit. But Tom never really liked me.
He didn't.
No, he. I wasn't a musician, like I said. I was a laborer musician. I could do things, but I wasn't like dedicated to the point of learning. Expanding my. I have now to this day, because what I used to do, I used to hire. And I was thinking about this. The reason I got fired from Motown is because I really wasn't asserting myself as the leader of the band. I was a backup guy, but I had the brains. I had the ability to see opportunities, and but it was all good because once I left Motown, then I met Cheech, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, we have a little cut of you singing that I want to play, and then we can discuss, okay?
Okay.
Let's play Tommy Chung.
'Cause up in smoke, that's where my money goes. In my lungs, and sometimes up my nose. Remember that line dance? In trouble time, when life ain't but a joke, I take a toke and all my cares go up in smoke. Up in smoke.
Enough of that.
That was Tommy Chung, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Tommy, I believe that was a live performance in 1999. Talk about Up in Smoke.
Well, Cheech and I were busy working on a movie, and it was the working title was Cheech and Chong's Greatest Hits. Our record producer, Lou Adler, was producing the show, the movie. And like he raised the money, and it was our first movie, and so like everything, I went home and thought of thought of Up in Smoke, the thought of the song. And then when I sang it for Cheech and Lou, Cheech says, that's the title of the movie. And it became the title of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And your first two pictures, Up in Smoke, 1978, and Cheech and Chong's next movie, 1980, I read something that it drew like 160 million viewers at the time, 2/3 of the
Oh, yeah.
population. That's incredible.
Yeah, at that time, yeah. Oh, we astounded the movie industry with Up in Smoke, because at the time, Days of Heaven was, one of the most expensive movies ever made, and there was every movie that was made during Up in Smoke got buried by us, and our movie cost it was under $800,000. The whole movie. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's never been done. I don't think it's ever been done again since, to be able to get that kind of success, I mean, it just, I had drive-in movie theater owners come up to me and Cheech and almost hug us, and because we actually saved the drive-in. We saved the movie theater, AMC, I think it was, because of Up in Smoke. They were ready to go under, and because Up in Smoke was so popular, because they started showing midnight showings, and then
Right.
it was a phenomenon around the world. But the trouble is, Lou, because he was such a entrepreneur, and we were like still growing, we were still young in the business. So we were unsophisticated. Lou was very sophisticated. So Lou kind of took it, out of our hands. Well, which is rightly so, because he was ready, for that kind of success. Luckily, when I look back at it, yeah, we got kind of screwed out of a lot of things, but it really helped, help create me and Cheech, because when Cheech went off on his own, he did a ton of acting jobs that he would never have gotten had we just lived off the success of Up in Smoke. So everything works out for the best, and what can I say, man? But it was such a phenomenon. And then when I did my own movie, next movie, which also was, and the reason we called it Next Movie is because we had broken up with Lou. We had split from Lou, and him and Paramount had the Up in Smoke or anything with smoke in it as titles. In fact, when we finally did a movie called Still Smoking, we had to pay Lou and Paramount money to use the word smoke, if you can believe that. So but everything worked out good, Yeah, we were in court for a bit, but we were too busy, becoming Cheech and Chong, to look back on that. But yeah, I mean, I was, in retrospect, you kind of get disappointed because we weren't invited to the like Lou took the movie to Cannes festival, and they had a special showing there, and it was kind of sad because Cheech and I would have loved to have been there, seeing how we wrote, directed, and starred in the movie, but we weren't invited, and it was bittersweet in the time because we were so young, So I mean, not age-wise, but movie-wise, and so everything worked out good. That's all I can say.
We're talking to the legendary Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong. Tommy, take me back, if you can, to the 1970s. Wild times, no question about it. How was the competition in comedy back then? I mean, you had Red Fox, you had Richard Pryor, Jonathan Winters, so many legendary comedians. How was the competition back then for you guys?
Well, we had no competition. Cheech and Chong have never had competition. There's nothing like us. And we had the Smothers Brothers talk. We used to work in a Smothers Brothers owned nightclub that they could not work in because it was a beer bar in Manhattan Beach. And even though they owned it, they couldn't go near the place because it was so rowdy and so on Smother Brothers like. But Cheech and Chong could work there. We could work anywhere, and we did. We were like, Lou used to tout us as the hard rock comedians. And so there was really, in fact, when Cheech and I were trying to get discovered, we would go and do open mic nights. And there was one place called Canopo's on Sunset Strip that's all the comedians used to line up there. The only one that I think anybody would remember would be the unknown comic. I almost said his name. But anyway, he was he went on to some a bit of stardom. He's still working. Murray Langston.
Yes.
And
yep.
And we would line up. It was funny at Canopo's. It was our careers got to be a movie sometime because it was so much fun. Can you imagine like 6 different comedians working in a steakhouse? Literally, it was Canopo. It was his dad's steakhouse, and he wanted to be a comedian, so he had open mic night so that he could get on stage. And he was beyond terrible. Like, he had no act. The only thing he had going that he was the son of the guy that owned the joint. and so Cheech and I would work there with every other comic. We'd line up, we usually went on toward the end, if not last, because our act, and remember, this was a steakhouse, and we would do some gross comedy. The waitresses would run out of the club. They would, because it was so gross. They would run out, but we had so much fun listening to the other comics, because a lot of when you start off, a lot of people, they don't have an act. That's why they're starting off new, and sometimes they're so terrible that the comedians, the club owners would put them on really early so no one would hear them. And there was one comic at Canopo's, his name was Terence Darby. He was English. And he had an English act that only Englishmen could understand. So Cheech and I, we would get stoned, of course, and smoke up a little weed. And then we'd go watch Terence Darby. And we ruined his show because we were laughing at his jokes. He was so used to doing his bit without any laughs that he developed a rhythm. And so Cheech and I would be watching him and laughing like crazy at where you're supposed to laugh, and it threw him off. It was crazy. Then there was another comic. He was a storyteller, actor. I almost said his name too, but he would tell the longest jokes. And then years later, when I went on my own, I remember some of his jokes, and I would use them. I used one or two in the. They were, incredible jokes. But you could never do it at a comedy club because it would have to be in a steakhouse. But we had so much fun. And about that time, I was with my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, and she's in the show now. Shelby. Well, Shelby would sit in the audience and critique us, because she's an artist and very brilliant lady. And she's the reason for all my successes. When I met her, my life changed. But she would sit in the audience and critique us, and we had so much fun doing open mic nights because we were that good, and that different. People always ask me, when did you know you were going to make it? And it was the minute we discovered Cheech was Mexican, because up in Canada, we didn't know what he was. He was dodging the draft, so he he was actually enjoying the fact that nobody knew that he was Mexican. And then, but when we come down to L.A., then his little secret slipped away from him. And so then when we started using that, the Chicano part of Cheech, then we exploded. Even to this day, it's still legendary.
No question about it. And reading some, a lot of the best comedy duos of all time. Many people know Laurel and Hardy, Amos and Andy, Abbott and Costello, but Cheech and Chong has to be, in my opinion, top 5 of all time. Everyone knows Cheech and Chong.
Yeah. I mean, we created a vocabulary. We created a whole set. There's when we go on the road, we get people that have been they're grandmas now, like me, and they're grandpas, and they've been following us ever since. And when I do cameos, I get requests from kids. Well, now they're grown adults. Like my son. My son is in his 40s. My daughter turned 60, or is turning 60. Yeah, she turned 60. So we've got fans that stretch back decades, and we created this whole thing. I mean, Cheech and I both. I mean, we are considered gods in Hawaii, in Mexico, South America. Cheech is in Colombia right now doing a movie with J-Lo, and
wow.
I know that any South American country and Europe, all over Europe. I was in Budapest, and all of a sudden we're walking. There's being tourists, and all of a sudden a kid walks up. He's out of breath. He said, "I passed you, and I thought it really is you." and the funny thing, the last one I'll tell you is my Lou Adler was in Italy with his wife, who is the sister of Daryl Hannah, and Daryl Hannah now is with the singer Neil Young, and so they're sitting in this restaurant, and this waiter is very friendly and talking to him, and he knew who Neil Young was, and so Neil Young asked him, he says, "Who's your favorite actor in America?" And the guy said, "Tommy Chong."
Really?
And Lou, I swear, Lou almost fell out of his chair, man. And so did Neil Young. They're thinking, De Niro or somebody, but the guy goes Tommy Chong. It's serious. So that
wow.
That's how wide and popular we are. And whenever I go anywhere, there's always someone that's coming up, and like last night I was out with my wife and I and Sugar Ray Leonard, the boxer, and we're out together, and he's almost like a Cheech to me now because he's so famous, and then they go, "Oh, and that's Chong."
I want to get this in though quickly, Tommy. I have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Is it true that you got high with the Beatles?
Everyone except Paul.
Really?
Not all together.
Talk a little bit about that experience.
Okay, well, I was at Lou Adler's party right after Cheech and I signed with Lou, and he had a party, and he had all the Stones, he had all the Beatles, except for Paul, and Ringo wasn't there, or George. It was just John. So I walked in the room with John. He refused my offer to get high, but because he had immigration problems. And then I was at a party with Ringo one time, and he refused because he was on the wagon. And then I was at another party with George, and he did not refuse. And George and I were friends right up until he died. And he was a sweet guy. And the only guy I hadn't smoked with the Beatles is Paul. And Cheech and I opened for the Stones, so we got not casually got to know the Stones and all the guys. I got high with Jimi Hendrix. The only trouble is Hendrix wasn't aware that I was smoking weed. he was in the bathroom the whole time.
Oh man, I could keep going. I have 1 minute left. Talk
Okay.
about your website quickly.
The website?
Yeah, talk about your
Tommy,
business and your website. I have 1 minute left.
Okay, at Tommy Chong or TommyChong.com. But at Tommy Chong is my one that where you can find out where you can get all my products, because I'm in the CBD king now. I sell more CBD than anybody else. So I'm and we're being sold in drugstores and Walmart and all sorts of places. But yeah, Tommy Chong CBD will make you smoke with the Beatles when you get a chance.
Now, are you still performing at casinos? I know with COVID, but are you going to be back on the road soon?
In June. In June. We go back on the road in June. Yeah. And you forgot to mention the fact that we discovered the Jackson 5. That was one of my Bobby Taylor. Yeah, with Bobby Taylor. It's Diana Ross would say that they wanted her to be the one that discovered them, but she discovered us, and we discovered the Jackson 5. So that's the other claim to fame.
So Tommy Chong discovered the Jackson 5.
Yeah, and I almost got high with Muhammad Ali. And,
man, we have to do a part 2. Is that okay? Maybe in a few months.
Anytime, dear. You call me. I'm ready.
Man, I appreciate it. It was an honor, and I'm going to reach out to you. I appreciate it so much.
Anytime, dear. I'm at your disposal.
All right. Take care of yourself, Tommy. Honor to have you.
You too. Lots of fun. Thank you, darling. Bye-bye.
Take care. Tommy Chong, ladies and gentlemen. Until next week, happy collecting to all.